Good morning. How are we doing? It is 11th of May, my birthday. If you didn't know, don't make a big fuss. Don't send me organic coffee and wild mackerel and leave it just outside the front door. Anyway, had a question from someone who said the above. Had a weekend away, overindulged, and I feel rubbish. What's your biggest advice? Hey, Nikki. And it really does depend on you and the situation you're in. But if it was the odd weekend away and you overindulged at a social event or something that perhaps you've probably been looking forward to for a while, because without context, this is quite key, then just go back to what you were doing before as fast as you can. The shorter the gap between you dwelling and this is the thing, like the shorter the gap between you dwelling on this, beating yourself up, and just getting back to what you were doing, the better your results are going to be over time. This is why I say a lot about, when we look at this exercise, nutrition stuff, and we see it as, it's just too much, like planning the meals, tracking foods. I hate stuff like that. And I'm not saying you have to do that at all. But it's almost like tools in a toolbox. And I say this because if you've tried everything and you're not getting the results you want, that's tiring anyway. That's overwhelming anyway. That's exhausting and quite boring anyway. So it's going to be boring anyway. You might as well do something that's going to, yes, might take a bit of time and be a bit overwhelming, but actually get you the results you want. And I'm saying this because it's a bit of a tangent, but it can seem we put the negatives of that on a pedestal, forgetting that beating ourselves up for half a week for having a weekend of eating what we want is also exhausting, overwhelming, tiring, and its impact on other people is huge as well. Now, going into more practical strategies, one, get back to it as quick as you can. Now, if it's happening quite a lot, we might need to change our strategy a little bit. Like, if there's lots of social events around at the moment, we might need to just tweak the strategy that we have at the moment. Now, what I would say with this is then we can actually start to treat the weekends a little bit differently and compensate during the week a bit. I'm not saying massively. I mean, some people, it suits their lifestyle quite good. They have lower days in the week because they know that they're busy. They're not too fussed about it. They'll have an evening meal with the kids, but it's or family. But morning, lunch, they're well in control of that. And they actually don't, because they're so busy, they don't really, hunger's easier to manage. But the weekends, they have more calories to spend at that weekend. Now, if you're the type of person who's trying to eat as low as possible, this is the asterisk on this. If you're I'm going to go as low as possible, lose as much as possible, but then every 2 days you have a binge, every 2 days you overeat, and then you're like, I need to go harder this time, I need to go lower in my calories this time. It keeps going in that cycle. We might actually need to raise your calories a bit because you're probably eating a lot more than you think you are. So the problem here becomes you might be going, yes, I'm on 1,000 calories a day, but then every 2 days we're eating 3,000 calories or 2,500 calories. That's bumping it up to the extent where we might as well just go, you know what, let's just get a bit of a solid base. Let's just boost it up to an average of, I'm just using numbers around, but like 1,500 a day. Now you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm quite satisfied now. I'm still in a deficit, but I'm actually sticking to the deficit now. And that's the difference. Now I'm sticking to the deficit. I'm actually in a deficit rather than being in an extreme deficit but never actually doing it for more than 2 days. I know this seems like a tangent, but that adds context to the weekend issue. And this is why it has to be quite a personal thing. And that's something that we're big on, because I could say that, you shouldn't compensate, and you shouldn't, in that situation, if you overeat, just go back to what you were doing. Don't try and compensate in this situation, because if you keep doing that, like down, binge, restrict, it's just that repeating cycle. But for someone else who's doing it in more of a planned way, and they're like, yeah, during the week, I'm eating around this much. Weekend, that gives me more flexibility to still be in a deficit over the week, but enjoy a bit of social life and actually get that balance right between, enjoying myself, but actually getting the results I want in terms of my fitness, in terms of getting the weight off, in terms of what that impact has on her joints, on knees, on self-confidence, and all of these things that we spoke about in our one-to-one. And I'm saying this because some things to some people are more important, and we talk about the what, the how, and the why. And usually when someone is struggling, they're missing one of these. So maybe someone knows how to do it, they just don't know kind of what to do right now. Or someone knows how to do it, they just don't know the why behind them, and they have to be reminded of this. And this is where we use things like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, in terms of keeping our attention on our why, our benefits. What is the point? Like why bother losing weight? It's a deep question, but what changes if you lose the weight? What changes if you get fitter? What changes if you get stronger? What changes if you get into a better routine with exercise? What changes if you do something? And perhaps more scarily is the other side of motivation often comes from the fear of essentially the pain that we're in now. What happens 5 years from now if we don't get a handle on this right now, whether that's around comfort eating, whether that's around weight, fitness level, where are we then? And these two elements can be our whys, which can then underpin the decisions that we make. A little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important to add context. And if you don't add that, we talk about the food, the fitness, the focus, those three legs of the stool. If you don't ever add that focus side of it, what goes up in here to it, we're always going to be missing some of the deep underlying stuff. We'll do diets, we'll lose some weight, but are we actually changing the habits in there? I'm not so sure. Anyway, have an awesome day. Any questions, let us know. If you want more information about our summer Shape Up program, just drop a summer below and I'll send it over to you, and I will see you soon. Take care.